Welcome everybody. I'm the air quotes comedian who the Comedy Weekly described as, and I quote, usually comedians have well-written material based on insightful observations. They have impeccable timing and a highly polished delivery and, of course, most importantly, are extremely funny. Air quotes comedian takes the opposite approach. You know, fuck the Fictional Comedy Weekly and their quotes, which I wrote myself in order to put myself down for comedic effect. And this is the Polemics podcast. Welcome. Recently, I saw a video on the YouTube where the YouTubers said that they had had a visit from the government after posting a video explaining how the CIA was a terrorist organisation, which is an indisputable fact. Now, while I might touch on some of the same points as that video, I am taking on a different aspect of the terrorist organisation known as the CIA. You know, the terrorists who terrorise the globe with terrorism. If the government wants to come a-knocking on my door, then I implore them to bring wine and pastries. I mean, I might as well have a tipple and nibbles while they do an anal cavity search, which is where I hide all my best material. Stick your hand up, not up there, if you think the CIA is a progressive organisation. I don't see any hands up, so I think it's safe to say that nobody thinks the CIA is progressive by any objective metric whatsoever. So imagine my surprise when I saw the latest CIA recruitment video. Okay, I'm not talking about the one that goes, "Are you a person who despises brown people in foreign lands and want to blow them up with illegal drone strikes? Do you hate the idea of a global south country demonstrating that socialism is a viable alternative to capitalism and want to overthrow that democratically elected government by funding authoritarian thugs who will do a coup and rule said country with the iron fist of totalitarianism while still being friendly to US corporate interests? Which is like one of our favourite things to do. Are you brainwashed by the general milieu of US propaganda and think that the hegemony of the USA and its corporate masters should be maintained by your blind patriotism? Are you okay with abjuring any sense of personal ethics and morality in order to flagrantly break both established domestic and international laws? If so, then maybe the CIA is for you. Yeah, I'm not talking about that recruitment advert the CIA put out. I'm talking about the other recent recruitment advert they put out. Because that's what I do all day. I just sit in my basement trawling the internet for CIA recruitment videos in between the times when I'm jerking it to hedgehog porn. Okay, so this advert centres on this woman of colour who says things like, that when I was 17, I quoted Zora Neale Hurston in a college essay. The implication being that because she did that, she is somehow woke because she quoted a quote from somebody who really was woke. Okay, let's get this fucking straight right off the bat. If I quote Adolf Hitler or Benito Mussolini or George Bush, it doesn't necessarily make me a Nazi, right? The fact that this woman is working for the CIA is proof, I certainly think, that she's a cunt who isn't progressive in the least, but is using the language of progressive decent people to further the aims of a heinous organisation. I wonder what Zora Neale Hurston, who wrote about the early 20th century struggles of black people, I wonder what she would have made of the CIA systematically destroying communities of colour by selling them crack cocaine in the 1980s in order to fund an illegal war while giving the then administration an excuse to further implement systemic racism by ensuring draconian sentences for possession of such. Possession ensured by A, it was cheaper than powder cocaine, and people of colour, again because of systemic racism, are generally poorer than whites. Whites who didn't get decades in prison if they were caught with powder cocaine. Disparity much? And B, because that's who the fucking government sold crack cocaine to. Just say no. But if you're black, be sure to say yes to crack cocaine so we can fund pro-capitalist militia in South America while simultaneously destroying your community and throwing you into prison forever for a problem your own government created. I think Zora Neale Hurston might have said something along the lines of, the CIA is a bunch of racist cunts and they can fuck right off. The terrorist recruiting advert, the CIA recruiting advert's mouthpiece goes on to say she can spout complex legal arguments in the English language and read out literature in Spanish. I think I already established that the CIA doesn't give a goddamn fuck about legal issues, and as for our antagonist being bilingual, well, that'll come in handy when you're working with the neoliberal friendly militias south of the border who want to tongue the disease-ridden arsehole of the USA when they overthrow their own democratically elected government in a sovereign nation that the US fucking A has no business sticking its nose in. Our hero mentions she is the daughter of immigrants. I'm idly speculating here, but maybe they wouldn't have fucking emigrated to the USA if the CIA hadn't been meddling in the affairs of South America. You know, destabilising sovereign nations who pose no threat to the USA whatso-fucking-ever, but sure do have plenty of valuable natural resources that US corporations want to steal. Our antagonist implies she is a feminist, which I think is absurd, right? Remember back in the 1970s when women could wear bikinis in Iran without being stoned to fucking death? Guess who is directly responsible for the reversal of women's liberation in that country? The CIA. Our antagonist even mentions that buzzword of progressive struggle, patriarchy. I can say words too. In fact, I've got a few choice ones in entertaining combinations that would probably get me kicked off of this platform. Yeah, believe it or not, dear viewer, I am pulling my punches. Our antagonist mentions another progressive buzzword, intersectional, on account of her being a cisgender female of colour while having general anxiety disorder and imposter syndrome, which, of course, I'm not going to mock because I slightly resemble a decent human being. I will say that I find it absolutely disgusting that this person is exploiting her mental health for the purposes of making a recruitment advert for one of the most evil organisations on the fucking globe. I mean, they're right up there on the axis of evil, along with Newsmax, Nestle and the Teletubbies. This advert, the one I'm currently lauding and promoting, is part of a series of adverts entitled Humans of the CIA. Look, without getting into a philosophical quagmire as to what qualifies as humanity, I just want to state that working for the CIA ain't it. The CIA pretending to be woke and progressive would be like the KKK recruiting people of colour into their organisation to pretend they're not actually racist. The CIA doesn't stand for humanity. No, what it stands for is cunts in America, or completely illegal activities, or, well, suffice it to say, fuck the CIA. Uh-oh.